All right. So I guess with that, we'll call the meeting to order at 5:09. Marcella Flom sort of leading in Tim Fisk's absence. Um, and yeah, I guess the minutes from our last meeting, April 1st, if we want to start with those. And if folks have had a chance to take a look, do we have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. So minutes
Oh, sorry,
approved.
I'll abstain. Sorry, audio there. Just because I wasn't here.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
Christian, does that, or quorum wise, is that?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. You just need a majority of the people present for favor. If it was like 3-2 or whatever.
Thank you. Perfect. So yeah, I mean we left the agenda a little unstructured in some ways. So I mean the next item is sort of the local priorities, which maybe especially for Hillary's benefit, we can kind of do a quick recap. So so there are state guidelines for the funds that the local cultural council administers. And then there are this sort of middle layer of kind of community specific local priorities that communities can set for themselves. And during the last grant round, it kind of came to our attention that those hadn't been looked at in quite a while. There was sort of a section that really had sort of inaccurate information or just sort of the wrong information, and another part that just wasn't that informative. And so while we were deliberating, we sort of agreed to kind of return to that in the off season, sort of once we were between grant rounds, to try to sort of update those and kind of have a conversation about what those local priorities should be. So we took a first pass at that, and I guess there was sort of a draft of those shared at the last meeting, and which we discussed a bit. And then I think our feeling was that, they were promising, but also that we wanted to make sure that there was a loop with folks outside of this group, but with sort of genuine kind of community feedback on whether those sort of updated priorities are the right ones. And so the thought, and I think this is sort of in the minutes, we sort of talked about kind of a couple of subcommittees in a way that would look at two pieces of that. So one group, and actually, so I guess Andrea, JJ, and Mary, we're going to think a bit about sort of a survey instrument for gathering some of that feedback. And then a second group, of which I guess I'm the only one here, was going to talk a bit about kind of communications. I think not so much about the survey, but more broadly about, when we open the application, sort of how we communicate that and through what channels. So I don't know, Andrea, JJ, Mary, is there any update on that front on sort of the survey work?
We sent you guys a first draft, right? Can you put that in the chat for them?
No, actually, I think I looked back at it and it just went to Tim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mary, you
Mary,
did that, right? That we have that, right?
Yeah, if you join the Zoom, you can share it to the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we shared it with Tim. And I guess I thought that would be on today's topic. I guess it could be under this topic that we're on right now. But I think we decided we had a pretty tight time frame to finalize the survey, get it out to people in order for the survey to inform the request for proposals. So I don't know if somebody wants to, if anyone is able to review that timeline again, just so we have a sense of where we're at and how much time we have to both, approve the survey, then get it up and get it out to people, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I think we submitted a pretty strong first draft.
I agree, but I'm not sure, what the process is to kind of review or, I mean, thought that was maybe sort of in Tim's hands, but I think he just responded by saying thank you. I'm not sure, I can look back at at his email, but, maybe that's a question that I have is, we have this draft, and I mean, it's nothing, nothing wild and crazy. We could just send it to everybody and get people's feedback. Is that, Mary, does that sound all right to you, Andrea?
I just
I
sent
don't
it
know that
to
we-
Kristen.
I'm not sure that can we do that outside of a public meeting though? Is that deliberation?
Wait, to do what?
Give us feedback.
Yeah, no, you need want to be giving feedback within the meeting itself.
Yeah, that's why I shared it just with Tim.
Okay.
Yes, and
What you just sent does not do.
And that's.
the
open
link
meeting.
doesn't go to him.
No, it doesn't. It goes to,
Mary, do you have a link to the document that you sent? I thought I sent it to Kristen now, but.
No, I can make a link in a couple minutes if you want.
It's a Word document. I have it.
Yeah,
Okay.
or could someone even maybe attach it to an email in the thread that we're all on?
Kristen, did you say you have it?
I don't have it.
I do.
Yeah, if you send it to me or Marcel's in the meeting, he can share it. It's gotta go
This-
share screens.
This looks like GLCC proposed survey questions doc.
Right. That's what I tried to send to him.
Okay, I mean, I actually have in the email. I can just forward the email, can't I?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. But help me if I'm, it looks like I just got something from Andrea, from you.
Yeah,
But it's a Google Doc.
yeah, what, you sent like a link to probably what was in the Gmail as a document, but it didn't work. So
Okay.
just,
Here's the survey. So I'm gonna just send that to everybody, but I'm not sure I have everybody's email address in
oh,
here.
I got something from Mary. Here we go.
Did you get it?
I got it from Mary, so we should
Okay.
be good.
So this was sent April 11th.
Oh, got it. So yeah, Tim may have just have forgotten to send it on.
Yeah. Tim says, yeah, thank you, thanks, JJ. I have not, yeah, no, I don't think he even said anything about it. Oh, no, this is awesome. Looking forward to reviewing it at our next meeting. Thank you all for your work. And that was from Tim. Simple, straightforward. But that was just Mary, Andrea, and me on that email. Oh, great. Use a euro.
Very cosmopolitan.
Very. Mary, so creative.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was, but there it is. Different symbol now.
Well, yeah, I would say let's walk through it together then, if that's all right. To me, that seems like our major kind of action item for today. And then, yeah, just to save enough time to think about dissemination. But I think that would be a good use of meeting time if that sounds good to everyone.
And I think that the questions will probably be fairly self-explanatory, but the idea was that this was aimed at both just people who take in culture in Greenfield and then also artists. I think toward the end, there's a specific question for artists, but I think it'll be fairly apparent as we go through it.
That's great. And I'm just reminding myself that, right, we said that one, potential population that would take the survey would be previous grantees, right? And so it makes sense to sort of capture that kind of, artist status as part of that. Okay. So yeah, question one makes good sense to me.
Does anyone have comments on that first one? I wondered if we don't want to offer every selection in the world, but are we missing anything sort of blatant. Good.
And I suppose, could someone select more than one option?
Yeah. That would be like a technical thing.
Yeah.
For when it goes up.
But I'm,
Well,
yeah,
it,
I mean,
it does say, how do you primarily identify?
oh,
but
primarily,
if-
okay, okay.
But what's people's preferences?
Rank choice. If it's
Okay.
hard to set up, I would say rank choice, actually.
Got it.
I suppose primarily might be easier to like tabulate if we sort of had just one response, but yeah.
Yeah. That's true. Primarily. Okay.
Can I suggest with that first one, you may really want to try to narrow it there, just because I think you're going to have broader responses in future questions. And if you're trying to look at, if you're really trying to get at some of the grant recipients and weed people out that way, that might be one of the questions where you kind of someone to strongly self-identify in one area versus others. Just a suggestion.
Maybe remove that. There you go.
For which question? Number
The
one?
first one. Whether or not you can select multiple,
Where?
whether or not you can select multiple options there, or if you have just one as your primary.
Oh, I see.
So Hillary's suggesting no change. Okay, that's fine.
I was just thinking on
Around
this
that.
one particularly, because I think you really want to know who's an artist. And if this is the place where you find that out, that might be important to kind of gauge that.
And can I ask, is there a question that follows that does ask specifically, have you received a grant from the local cultural council?
No, but that came to my mind when we were just having this discussion about the first.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's. Okay. Can come back to that. Should we look at question 2 then?
So just to clarify, we're not making any change on the first, is that correct?
Seems like that's the consensus.
Okay, great, thanks.
On your second, can I ask, you say primarily take in art, but do you want people to filter with one response, or do you really want them to say everywhere? I'm just asking about the use of primarily in that question.
Uh-huh. And as you were asking the question, I was thinking we really should say arts and culture and not just art.
Yeah.
Well, this was going to be a, choose all that apply. So
You could probably take out the word primarily on that one.
got it.
And then I have one other venue suggestion. And sorry, this is my myopic viewpoint of downtown, but there are also downtown businesses that are hosting art, like Rise Above, that maybe aren't included here.
I like that. Is so the word downtown, or that was making me think. So are there other non-downtown businesses?
There must be.
Say that again.
There must be. There's art at the hospital.
Yeah. I think downtown businesses is probably good. What do others think?
Yeah.
So you want me to add downtown there?
Downtown businesses, right?
I'm thinking about like Roundabout Books. Are they showing art in there? I wonder if downtown gets us anything, or yeah, if we would need to know that necessarily. I think I'd be comfortable with businesses as is.
Is it assuming that it's Greenfield businesses or should it say local businesses?
The
I think
venue.
up in the question there.
Yeah. No, that's, I'm.
It's all Greenfield though, right? That's like. Already.
So
My only other thought, I wonder about the language of take in, and I don't mind it, but I wonder if something like engage with would be a little bit more active too, like just sending the message that it's not just about consuming art and culture, but potentially about kind of making it, participating in it too.
I'm fine with that.
Me too.
So Christian, are you capturing all these changes? So I don't need to?
You not see, oh, can you not see me sharing my screen?
Got it. Thank you. So great. I will stop making notes. I wanted to go back to what Hillary suggested because I feel like just the word businesses doesn't capture the spirit of what she was talking about. And plus businesses, studios and other categories above are already businesses. So should it say other local businesses?
Yeah, I like the idea of at least establishing businesses there, because I do think there's some places, like I said, like Rise Above, that fall outside that, so. Other local businesses seems fine, or.
Can I make an operational question? We have to be out of here, in 32 minutes. And right now, I think we're going through a lot of questions unless we're going to take another meeting to do this. But I'm also not a huge fan of group editing. So, I'm fine with whatever suggestions and word changes other people have. I mean, if there's some substantive, issues, then maybe we should have those for discussion. That's just my observation, because I don't even know how many questions, but I think there's quite a few more questions.
10,
Oh, it's only 10?
it's 10.
Okay.
And we
I
do have
also-
to do this publicly.
Yeah.
If we're going to discuss this, we have to do it in open meeting, so.
I would like to add, if we're gonna add. Churches and synagogues. Which do concerts and lectures on history,
Yeah.
So places of worship.
places of worship. And the thing with downtown businesses, I mean, is there a way to capture? Venues, like food venues that host, because there are coffee shops and stuff like that that have artists in them, and is that the spirit of what Hillary's on, I think?
We did
Yeah, I think so.
Jobs and restaurants instead of businesses.
Shops and restaurants. Yeah, I was thinking of the word venues in there sometime, or pop-up venues. Does that, I don't know.
Because there's sort of the indoor and outdoor.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I wonder, even like indoor venues rather than indoor clubs, maybe that would be a little.
Yeah, indoor venues,
Maybe.
and you could put clubs, businesses as, in parentheses.
Indoor performance venues.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It's okay.
Yeah, great. Okay. So
Can I-
honoring this, oh, go ahead. I was just gonna honor the spirit of JJ's suggestion, and if there's nothing else essential here, maybe we could move on to the next question.
Love it. Love it and leave it.
Oh, nice, yeah. I guess, do we need something on the humanities or culture that's sort of over and above the arts, if that's part of our remits?
I would just, however you want to do it, change the structure of the question to match the one above it, if you're doing primarily or not primarily, and
Yes.
take in, not take in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you engage? Do you engage with? Yeah.
Nice feng shui there. Some nice word feng shui. What were you saying? Do you want to put in the humanities in there? I probably. right?
Yeah, I just wondered if, so all of the responses there have arts in it somewhere, but I feel like often when we talk about what we do, we sort of call out the humanities separate from that. And I mean, if we needed examples, I guess we could say history. I think there's some language even from the state guidelines about sort of what they consider as part of the scope of the humanities, that we could just borrow.
Mary, do you have thoughts? I think you looked at those pretty carefully.
I'm fine with adding that category. I'm thinking about the things that GCC offers, for instance, the history type things. So whatever those words are. Anyone have words?
Lectures and continuing education, parentheses, history, anthropology, something like that.
Nice.
Mhm. Great.
Good.
Any other thoughts on number 3? That looks great. Right. So number 4.
Number 4 almost came backwards from like the kinds of things we funded. You know what I mean? I think we kind of backward engineered from this. Or that was a frame as we were generating these.
Now that I'm looking at this list, I feel like the category climate crisis focused is a little bit out of place. Maybe it goes under nature, science, climate there rather than its own thing.
I think that
Because-
was,
Because
Yeah.
otherwise you could start listing all kinds of individual
Exactly.
things.
yeah.
So when I was looking at the other guidelines from the other cultural councils, I'm remembering that I want to say it was Holyoke sort of, yeah, specifically called out in their guidelines, kind of, we prioritize particular sort of topics of this nature. And so I guess I'm curious what folks think more generally about so the draft of the guidelines that we circulated did not do that as such. We could, I mean, that's certainly something we could add, but I guess I'm curious what folks think more generally about, one concern I have is that like a list like this, it would be very hard to have it be exhaustive, right? So I'm thinking about like the marching band that we funded, right? But like that doesn't quite fit into any of these categories. Well, I don't know, concerts, I guess it does, but yeah, I'm curious what folks think about, would we as a cultural council benefit from this kind of direction as far as these kinds of programs and not others? Like, yeah, is that guidance that we would like to sort of look for and in a way kind of bind ourselves to by writing that into the guidelines? And if not, I guess I would just pose the question, do we need to ask this question if we don't plan to make the results of it sort of actionable in terms of prioritizing some things over others? But maybe the group sort of discussed that.
Yeah, I thought one of the primary points of the survey was to help us to sort of whittle down what we want to fund. I mean, I'm still alarmed by the fact that you guys reviewed 80 proposals last year. I can't review 80 proposals.
There's other ways to do it. I mean, this is a little bit out of order in terms of process, but I've been on boards where each reader reads about 20 or 30. And so like every grant is read by a couple of people, like that type of thing. So we could do that. So for now, let's stay here. I mean, maybe we're on 4 now, right? Maybe that needs a other kind of thing. And I thought, like, based on Marcel's question, I feel like part of this question is to kind of hear from other people, you know, what those, I think we want to solicit information here. I'm very comfortable with climate moving in there, but something like indigenous or whatever, we might want to focus on something like that.
I like the idea of sort of serving both masters with this question, the idea that you can both get input from people from it, but also establish or at least point to some of the values of the organization with the survey, because it sort of seems like to me you're soliciting input, but you're also communicating. It's also a marketing tool for the council itself, putting this out there.
Mhm.
People seeing it, reading and engaging with it. So I like having some specificity, but I agree that an open field here I think could be really helpful for anticipating things that might be coming in and hearing from people about what they would expect to be funded. So
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Anything else on number 4 then? So yeah, with the addition of other.
Good, halfway there almost.
Mhm.
5. It's another catch-all.
Mhm.
is teens a carryover from the other survey, or is youth a possibility for that wording?
Better, yeah. And maybe rather than seniors, elders.
I guess just the way the question is framed right now, it's sort of it's a yes no kind of technically, and so I guess I'm wondering if yeah feels like part of what we're asking is like, are there segments that are, you know, that we should prioritize, right? So I wonder if there's a way of capturing that. Yeah, are there population segments we should aim to prioritize in our public funding of cultural projects, something like that?
Good.
We put an other here too.
Yeah, that's good. And maybe even just are there at the beginning to make it clear that it's plural, that we, you know. Because I could also imagine someone cranky saying no, right? In the other field, and that's fine too. Right.
Well, we could also just ask it as what particular population segments should we aim to prioritize
Mhm.
instead of are there?
Sure.
I feel like indigenous and people who have lived here for a long time, it's because if we're trying, I mean, I'm not gonna insist on them, but if we're capitalizing on the local culture here, I think that's kind of important.
So could we get away with indigenous and immigrant communities? Just to,
On the indigenous side, yes. But how could we capture something about, maybe it's not a people category, but something about capturing the local gems of our, like the special things about Greenfield. I'm not sure who's associated with that.
I don't think that indigenous and immigrant go together. They're kind of the opposite.
Agree.
Okay. Good catch.
So, but I wholeheartedly support adding indigenous in here.
I wonder if to the question of local, sort of if that can be gathered through assessing interest in local history and the projects themselves versus local people, aside from the indigenous segment. So you might be able to capture interest in that through interest in projects.
Yeah, which we've listed in other places, actually.
Yeah.
Are we on 6?
Yep.
What, what were we trying to do with 6? JJ, do you remember? I don't remember.
Yeah, I didn't have a very good grasp of what it was we were trying to accomplish with this either.
Looks like you're trying to ask if people think it's important to bring money into the community or tourism dollars or something like that, possibly. Is that?
I think, yeah, I can't actually recall the specifics, but looking at it now, I think there was some discussion about the importance of having some sort of economic impact on the community, whether it's people buying things and commerce and supporting artists through that, through those, do these projects add a net benefit, or do they have a perspective on bringing some economic benefits, vibrancy we use to the local community. And
Yes,
I don't know.
I would ask a similar question that Marcel asked earlier. Is this something that's where we think we will use as part of our criteria for grading or scoring the proposals? Because if it isn't, is there still a place for it in here?
Good. I mean, yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of struggling with this because in my experience, many people looking at what's funded and how it's funded is that well, what does it do to benefit the, local businesses, and, how can businesses benefit, and how can the businesses help support and learn which artists and projects are there? To me, it's whether it's worded like this or whatever, I think that we will benefit more having it in here than not, even if it's just that people recognize that we're thinking about some sort of financial or economic impact in the community.
I think I like that word impact, and I wonder if changing vibrancy to impact would make our question a little more clear, because I think it is of importance to some people who might be taking the survey, and would be interesting for us to know how highly economic impact rates in the eyes of the people that were ostensibly helping build this cultural capacity for our community. So I do think it's a good question, and economic impact, I think, is a little more to the point.
Yeah, and so Marcel, I think that, can you help us maybe think through, like, if, 20% of the people who respond to the survey, they say they choose very important, does that tell us something? I'm just trying to ask from a, kind of a, from how does that help us, or does that help us at all? And how you would.
I mean, I'm comfortable with it as is, and I think looking at the breakdown as it comes in and sort of trying to understand, I sort of, to Hillary's point about that, it's also about how we talk about the work we do, right? And to the extent that kind of, like, for Tim, I know that this is like really resonant, the idea of sort of placemaking and sort of its economic side. So yeah, thanks for the impact suggestion. I think it's improved.
Well, I like the word when you're saying it. Yeah.
I think the rewording here is good. It's
Yes.
much improved.
I agree.
Okay. So for 7, which events have you attended or experienced? And is that maybe just an open response? Is that?
Yeah, like would there be like a link to like a PDF of all the events and then there'd just be like long response, like just like list things you've been to? Is that what?
Would
We can
they,
do that.
would they know? Like, for me, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm new, and unless somebody said, we'd like to thank our sponsors, the Greenfield Local Cultural Council and Greenfield Savings Bank for their support of this project, this, piece of art or culture. I wouldn't know if it got support.
Sure.
Yeah,
And I would venture that if we left it in here like it is, that people might say, no clue.
Sure.
Or maybe we should like list a few. I mean, were there top, I mean, not to point out any, but just so they might, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying what
What was the goal of this question?
Yeah, could I'll say that I added this. I researched a bunch of other local cultural councils just to see anybody who had an active survey, so I could see what other people were asking. And many of them just asked the sort of boilerplate that the state provides, many of which I think the questions are not particularly useful to the goal of this survey. But I did think that this was worth discussing. And I wondered if, I mean, my understanding is we funded a boatload of small projects last year, but would it make sense to list several that are representative of, like, I don't know, a musical event or a, sculptural event or whatever it is? Or we could do it, I don't know how many people would click on the PDF and go out and wade through all of them.
Would they come back to the survey?
Yeah.
And do we require people to acknowledge us in their
Yes.
promotional
Yes.
material? Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Again, I do think this is another opportunity though for people to get educated on what the council does and what it has funded in the past. So this might be another one of those issues where you're educating, communicating, outbound marketing versus getting a return on the response. I think functionally, maybe it's a bit of a drag to have to click out and click back in to reply to something, but maybe you have the full list and then make some and have some examples. And maybe this is less about the data collecting than it is just engagement.
Uh-huh.
That makes sense to me.
What if we had a category in there that said not sure? I think that would win.
I think that would win.
And that tells us something, right?
Just that they probably wouldn't click through.
Right,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
might just be failure to answer, yeah.
Yeah, it's a better question to not ask about specific events, but ask, have you attended a GLCC event? And
Yeah.
if people say no or not sure, and that would be a good data as well.
Yeah. We could even word it as like, have you taken advantage of GLCC sponsored events in your area?
That's where I was headed,
Mhm.
is don't ask them to know, see if they do know.
Mhm.
Like, have you participated in GLCC sponsored, projects or, I mean, that just might in itself be
Mhm.
worth the data. I mean, it's.
Sure. And then I suppose you could include the link, and if anybody wants to follow it, they can.
Oh, yeah,
They're not
yeah.
obligated to.
Yeah, no, that's.
Yeah.
That's
I
a
would
good.
include, I would include the link because politically speaking, what I would hate to see is a bunch of survey respondents just saying, no, I haven't. 'Cause then it kind of comes back around to then what are you doing there and where are you doing it?
Sure.
If nothing's
Mhm.
going. Just to be cynical about that,
Mhm.
I think having the list is beneficial. I really do.
Mhm.
And so then it would be
Yeah.
kind of yes, no, not sure for the responses.
Mhm.
Speaking for myself, I would probably say not sure. Because I don't know which events or, other types of things that I attended last year were funded or not funded by the Cultural Council. So I don't know, maybe most people are more energetic survey takers than I am, but I'm just not sure about this question.
Do we benefit more by having it in than we would if we just striked it altogether? I don't have an opinion, actually. I'm just asking.
I like Hillary's point
Yeah.
about it being, oh, Empress says, Empress, no, we can't hear you.
Yeah.
I think you're muted. I was just gonna say, I agree with Hillary that I like the opportunity for people, especially if they do follow the link and look at the list, and then they're like, oh my God, yes, I have. Oh, they did that. It does create that excitement. I think
Sure,
that
not
point.
even if not everyone follows it and not everyone.
even if not
That's-
everybody does it, I think the question of engaging around it is a good point.
Yeah, and
Okay.
even if 10% of the people who take the survey click through to the link, then we will have educated them
Mhm.
about what we've done.
Yeah.
And hats off to us.
Yeah, I agree.
Good.
All right, 3 questions to go. What do we think? Can we,
9 minutes.
9 minutes. So how do you hear about cultural activities that interest you?
To me, that was so important, right?
Christian, can Empress hear us? Did she say anything else in the chat?
No, she didn't say anything else. Are you having, you're muted, Empress. Are you having trouble unmuting? Or were you unmuted before and it still wasn't working?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you unmute her?
I might be able to. Ask to unmute. Theoretically, you just got a button
There
saying
it is.
unmute.
Hi.
Hey.
I've been talking the whole meeting. I was like, what's going on?
No.
Just recap it all for us.
Yeah. So definitely I like the idea of the survey. I know that we talked about that in the last meeting. I would just, is this going to be the same survey as far that we're going to be doing for Juneteenth?
No.
No, it will be a different survey.
Yeah, this is very specific to the GLC as like a whole.
Okay. Okay.
But just to clarify, I think that I just want to make sure I understand the question. Empress, I think we talked about various venues that we try to distribute the survey, and I think one of them was Juneteenth.
Oh,
So-
yeah, in that case.
Having a table or something.
Exactly. Yes. That's what we talked about at the last meeting.
Yeah.
As far as having like a public survey at Juneteenth and distributing that information out to the community as a whole. So I just want to know, like, is that going to be the same survey to get more input?
Yes, so I think that is what and I think like we talked about Pride as well. So yeah, various sort of public events where that would be one strategy for distribution would be sort of tabling at those events.
Is that QR or paper?
I think we hadn't said one way or the
Yeah,
other.
not that far.
Yeah.
We can do both.
Yeah. Should we do something like that?
Okay, sounds good. You answered my question. Because I kept saying, excuse me, excuse me.
Oh, no.
I was like, excuse me, excuse me. I was like, oh, what's going on?
I'm glad you chatted. The hybrid is weird. I'm glad for it, and it's hard.
It's very hard. This is the new day and age. But yeah, so Christian, do you know when the next meeting is? Is it gonna be before Juneteenth?
Yeah, so the next meeting would be the first Monday in June. So June 3rd.
Okay, so we will have time to put something together by then.
And it actually occurs to me, maybe the one thing that, because I know our time is short, and so if we don't get through the last questions, one thought would just be for Juneteenth and for Pride, since we identified those as both places where we wanted to distribute the survey, might it make sense to empower our survey group to just reach out to those groups to sort of set that up if that needs setting up, like a table or whatever, right? I'm just wondering if like the
Yeah.
lead time to set that up would be good. And even if we have to wordsmith a little bit more at the first meeting in June, I think that's fine. I think it would be more
Yeah.
about. So would,
All right.
would you be willing to take that on?
Let's divide it up.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So Empress is here.
Sorry.
Well, I already know, I don't know about Pride, but I know already for Juneteenth, I already put, the GLCC on the mapping.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So I move fast, so.
You're
So-
amazing. And I have a meeting with Heather Maloney from Pride on Wednesday, and I can bring this up to her then, if that's helpful.
And Empress and anybody else who's connected with the various people or events. I would be very curious whether or not we should offer people multiple methods to take the survey. And just as somebody who has done the QR code a few times, but it's kind of like, oh, I gotta pull out my phone and let's see, is it gonna take the picture? If there were a bunch of surveys that were actually at the table, that we might benefit from that by getting more people just to be able to participate. But that's just my 2 cents that I'm taking to you all who've been in touch with the key events that are coming up, Juneteenth and Pride.
Give them a paper
I
survey.
think it's good to have both.
Yeah, because I thought we said the
Andrea
last
said.
time, yeah, I thought we said at the last meeting we would have paper distribution and QR codes.
Sure,
Okay,
That sounds
Great.
great.
sure.
Great.
that's just clarifying.
And so then the one other thing that I'm wondering if, and yeah, thinking that we may want to wind down there would be, I know there was some discussion at the last meeting about like the survey platform. Do we want to use Google Forms? Tim mentioned the possibility of kind of borrowing his kind of Survey Monkey. So would that also be something that maybe the survey subcommittee could sort of carry forward between this meeting and next meeting to sort of, figure out a way to sort of operationalize that on a platform of some kind? Kind of, maybe. Yeah,
I'd be glad to talk with Tim about that.
That would be amazing. Okay.
Okay.
I couldn't add nothing to that conversation.
Sounds like Mary's on the,
I like
on the.
Sorry.
form.
We got a yes.
So, and then my thought is that, right, for the last couple of questions, we could always kind of take a look at those at the June meeting, if there's any sort of tinkering that we want to do then. But I mean, it feels to me like, it's in a pretty good state to be committed to a platform, even if we do a little bit more tinkering before distribution.
Could you remind us
think-
of what the last question is?
There's 2 more on there, actually.
So challenges.
Yeah,
and
Oh,
directory.
he's got it there. Okay. I think
So-
9 is fine. I think that's
Mhm.
good to go. And 10 already has a note.
I made that note saying we only want to ask people if there is an existing directory that we could add people to, and there's somebody who maintains the directory.
Agreed.
Yeah, I have a semi-formal directory. It's really just people that I've happened to encounter, including like you guys, the cultural district, artists we've worked with, people that have reached out about this kind of stuff, but it's not formal.
Previous applicants.
Previous applicants, yeah.
Like an
pretty good
internal
start.
list, you mean?
Yeah, just like, I'll put together a list anytime.
Is it a database sortable and?
I have a Excel document from the last time I had to send out. Like I'll do like every time I have like a big thing to send, I'll check. I'm like, all right, who's on this list? Who do I need to add?
Well, at least.
maybe
Excel is somewhat,
Maybe rather than community directory, then are we asking if they want to be on a mailing list?
Yeah,
Is that more the thing? Because if we have that, then that's awesome.
or both, mailing list or community.
Directory makes it sound a little like the
Official.
arts hub.
yeah.
Kind
No,
of
yeah,
thing,
it wouldn't be public facing unless
Yeah.
that's your guys' intention.
Yeah, maybe
You really
someday. I think that'd
couldn't,
be
you couldn't do
awesome.
that. You couldn't give everyone's data away. I mean, I think an artist might feel differently than a consumer of art. They might want different
That's a
kinds of
good
mailing
question,
lists,
too. Yeah,
They might want, and an artist might want to know when the deadlines come up.
So just mindful of
That's a good
time, we should
question.
probably close it here.
okay.
Thank you just to Mary and to Andrea and to JJ,
Yes.
really, like, I'm having not seen the
It's just
survey
mostly ate lunch, you
recirculated,
know what I
I'm
mean?
just amazed
I really
at, yeah,
appreciate
the,
it.
the quality of the inputs that were here. So yeah, Mary, thank you for getting together with Tim. And I think, yeah, if we have something in platform form that we can kind of, do a final sign off for the June meeting, I think that would be amazing.
Could I ask a public meeting question? So is it possible for our group to test the survey, or is that considered deliberation as well?
As long as
Before-
it's a small group
before-
and not a quorum.
Okay,
You wouldn't,
great.
yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, we should absolutely test it.
Was there a
A
test?
couple of us, and we should just submit our responses anyways as consumers. Agreed.
Okay, thank you.
Good work, everyone. Welcome,
Thank
Hillary.
you.
Some good comments.
Thank you all. Sorry again for being late.
Okay.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, motion to adjourn, I guess.
Second.
All right.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.